Hiya, pals! Welcome to the Mouse Bytes podcast! Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Mouse Bytes, the show all about Disney video games, past and present. We are here with episode 26. I'm your host, Jeff, and I am joined, as always, by Clay. Hello, Clay. How you doing, buddy?
Good, doing well. We're back.
We are back. It is good to be back. It's been a while.
Yes, a bit.
But,
almost a month.
Yeah, but it was a much-needed break.
Yes,
I don't know for you,
definitely.
but for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had the holidays, we had the new year, we've gotten back into the swing of regular life, and I think we finally felt it was time to get back into the Mouse Bytes life.
Yeah, and we probably didn't leave ourselves with like the most exciting thing to come back to, so maybe that was part of it too.
That was probably a big part of it. Yeah, this week, or this month, or this episode, we are covering Disney's Magical Mirror starring Mickey Mouse. Alrighty, and for those of you who don't know what this is, and that could be many of you, and maybe not, but let's start with our What the Heck Is This Game? Clay, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, really all you need to know is that this is a Mickey Mouse game, and it is really different than most Mickey Mouse games in the fact that it is more or less a point-and-click adventure game. And so, yeah, overall, that's pretty much the gist of what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I can also give some more details if you'd like, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so this was developed by Capcom, and this was Capcom's,
A Capcom Mickey game? It must be amazing.
Yeah, right? I mean, they did so well on the Super Nintendo with all their Mickey games and even Disney games in general. Like, I'm sure this is going to be awesome. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But yeah, this was released in Japan August 9th of 2002, North America August 13th, 2002, all Europe looks like they got it in September of 2002. So this was a pretty early GameCube game, is that correct?
About 8, 9, 10 months into the US cycle, probably about a year after it launched in Japan.
Okay.
But yeah, that's relatively early. What's most interesting to me is that it launched pretty much globally within a month. Like back then, that wasn't as common.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, maybe it was
Especially
something
for Japanese games.
Yeah, right. But yeah, this game came out exclusively on the GameCube and only on the GameCube, which is kind of interesting because I feel like this game honestly works better on like the PC, and so. Yeah. It's kind of interesting that they chose to do a point and click exclusively on a home console, but
right.
I don't know. I don't really know of other Mickey point and click adventure games. I'm sure there's some out there, especially on the computer.
God, to imagine there was PC CD-ROM ones like in the 90s, but I've never heard of one.
Right, and like I know there's educational Mickey games, so maybe you could like kind of group those in, but
yeah.
Not really much else as far as information on that. No re-releases or anything. I don't know. I was trying to look up and see if people still considered this game to be in the same like series as the SNES Capcom Mickey games. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find anything to prove it otherwise, so it might just be kind of on its own with a kind of pseudo-sequel that followed on the GameCube. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting and kind of unfortunate that I'm getting ahead of myself, that moving from what I think are the best Mickey games on the Super Nintendo to just, I don't know. They tried something different and it just didn't work. So
yeah. I mean, we'll get more into it, but yeah, I think it was an attempt at something new, and it didn't turn out too well. But
yeah, But speaking of the Super Nintendo Capcom games, There is one little, I guess, additional note, caveat, fun fact, if you could call it that. If you had a copy of Disney's Magical Quest starring Mickey and Minnie for the Game Boy Advance, which is a port of the third one from the Super Nintendo that never released in the United States, it is compatible with the GameCube using the Game Boy Advance connector thing.
Yeah.
Advanced cable, I guess is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to test this because unfortunately I don't have Magical Quest 3 or whatever on the Game Boy Advance, but it is something that you can do. I'm not even really sure what it changes in the game. All it says is that it adds some changes to the GameCube game. So I'm not entirely sure what it does. But I don't know. It's interesting because obviously this game was made by Capcom, and I was reading some FAQ or not FAQs, but like walkthrough stuff last night or yesterday, and they mentioned at the bottom that there's a lot of like Capcom references to other games within this game, and I don't think they were talking about like Mickey games. I think they were talking about other. Just Capcom games. Yeah. Like there's a pretty obvious Street Fighter esque mini game in this where you punch a bunch of barrels and Mickey can shoot Hadoukens and stuff.
Okay.
And then in the credits of the game it does a little Smash Bros thing where you can Hadouken the developers' names as Mickey as they scroll up.
That is so random, especially for what this game is.
It's so weird. If you would just see that, you're like, oh, cool. Like it's like,
yeah.
But you can actually control Mickey and like move left and right with the joystick, and it's like, weird. Oh, I wish the whole game played this way.
Yeah.
But there's a couple other. I think there's like some like Devil May Cry thing with like the sword. I don't know, but there's a bunch of Capcom references. So maybe if you're a huge Capcom junkie, you'd have fun with the references. But anyway, that's all the information I have on this game.
Fair enough. And I don't have any additional information. But leading from there, we'll go into our history with the game if we have any nostalgia, etc. I'll go ahead and start with that one. I remember seeing this advertised very briefly at like Space World, maybe 2001, and probably either an IGN coverage or just Nintendo Power. And, being the Disney fan that I was really excited for it. And I was super excited for the GameCube. So I was like, oh man, a new Mickey game on the GameCube. I am all in on this. And then I think they showed a trailer for it at E3 2002. And that's when they showed it. It was like, it's a kid's game. It's a point and click. Looks pretty slow paced, and then I was a little less excited when it did release. I read some reviews and it did not review well. I think Metacritic it's like 40% or something. Something super low. It's like it's bad. So I was like, well, that's a pass. So it was pretty disappointing. So that's pretty much my whole history with it. I never played it. I downloaded it and played it on an emulator probably like 10 years ago. And then I played it more in our preparation for this episode. But that's pretty much it. How about you?
Well, I had never played this game back in the day. So I don't know. I guess I just never. I don't think so.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
And you were a GameCube kid too, right? Like you had one.
Yeah, I owned one. I never really had like the strongest GameCube library. I think at that point I was maybe like more into the PlayStation, and I was really only playing like GameCube exclusives, even though that's what this is. Yeah, but I don't know. I liked the Super Nintendo games, but yeah, just for whatever reason, this was never on my radar.
Okay.
But I think it was you that suggested we cover it on the show.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
We were looking for something on the GameCube to cover because it had been a little bit since we'd covered a GameCube game, and so looking at the cover of this game, I was like, "This looks like a game I'll enjoy."
Yeah.
I like the Epic Mickeys. I like the Capcom stuff, Mickey games, and so I actually, and then I think after you had mentioned it, I ran across a copy in the wild for a whole $8.
That seems a little steep for this game.
which even that I'm like $8. Like that's not a good sign. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they definitely made their money on this one. But
Yeah.
on my sale, yeah. So I picked it up and I've just held on to it and never put it in. And then yeah, in preparation for the episode, I put it in and look, I started playing a little bit, and then I looked up online, like, all right, how long does it take to beat this game? And I saw somebody say about 4 hours, and I was like, I've got 4 hours. I'll see if I can beat this stupid game. And so, yeah, it took me about 3, and I beat it. I probably could have beat it even sooner, but I got a little like confused on something, and I'll explain it later. But basically, yeah, I finished. I didn't 100% it, and at first I didn't even realize this was a game that you could or couldn't 100%. But it is, which is probably one of the only redeeming things about this game, or any kind of like replay value to it. Yeah, so I played through the whole game, and so it's been a while since I've beaten an entire game. I could have done it in one sitting, but my wife came home with pad thai, so you know you have to pause the game.
Oh,
yeah, you got to stop for pad thai.
Man,
so.
I love pad thai.
Oh, so good.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about it and our history with it. So from there, we'll go into our usual gameplay discussion. And with the gameplay discussion, we'll discuss the gameplay itself, but also the visuals, the audio, the story, and then anything else about it that we think. Just kind of real quick right off the bat, I know you said it's a point-and-click adventure, and in that sense, it's like, okay, it's like Monkey Island, but it also has sort of a Luigi's Mansion feeling to it, where you're kind of just exploring a house. And then, I don't know how many people ever played Hey You Pikachu. I mentioned this to you when we were playing the game, but it just sort of, the music reminded me of Hey You Pikachu, and just sort of some of the interactivity where you kind of mess around with stuff in the environment with Mickey just kind of reminded me of that, although without the voice commands. Anyway, hopefully that paints a little bit of a picture for people as to what this is, but yeah, we'll start with the visuals of the game.
Yeah, if I may jump in here.
Yes, sir.
So honestly, I had no issues with any visuals in this game other than what Mickey himself, his face looks like.
Same, the eyes, man.
Yes, the eyes.
Like mascara, he looks like an emo Mickey.
Yes, it's a little strange. I think they were trying to make Mickey's eyes able to look around and move, and so in order to like do that, they had to kind of like separate. I don't know the terminology, but like the polygons or something.
Yeah, I think part of it was to make it look right on like a old CRT small TV. They made like the outline of his eyes like extra black and thick because that made them stand out and look like they were outlined. But yeah, it looks real bad in higher resolution.
Yeah, so unfortunately that was a little jarring at times. There's other times where it's really not that noticeable, and it didn't bother me. And then there's a couple like face animations that Mickey does that are just really weird. Like he does this like really evil smirk, like behind the back thumbs up thing from time to time in certain cutscenes where it's just like, I don't know, it's weird. And then there's a couple times where he like shows his teeth, just doing this like really weird smile, and it's just like kind of off-putting. And he frowns a lot in this game. I don't know. I know Mickey can frown. I don't know. It just feels weird, and some of it's just them not getting the character right. And I felt like sometimes his personality just wasn't the Mickey that I know, and I don't know. They were trying to go for a more dynamic thing here, but it was just a little weird. Yeah. And so they did a good job making him very expressive and have a lot of, you know, emotions and things, because that's really all you have to lean on as far as characters in this. And but yeah, he's just a little weird. Other than that, you know, for a GameCube game, I think it looked fine. There wasn't really any other like visuals that kind of like bothered me. He was just kind of weird. I don't know. Did you notice anything else visually?
It's like it's not bad, but like there wasn't anything super great effects wise or polygon wise. Like the environments are good. The art direction I thought was pretty good as far as like making it look like a Mickey cartoon, and the modeling of like the TV room and some of the toys in the other rooms and stuff like that. You know, where nothing is like perfectly square and boxy. You've got a lot of angles and stuff like that matches the cartoon, which I thought was great. I definitely agree that the Mickey model was a little weird and sometimes, and like you said, the animation of it. To be fair, I'm like trying to think back. I think this may be one of the very first like 3D modeled Mickey Mouses. Because I'm thinking like Disney's first 3D animated Mickey was, I think, a year later in PhilharMagic, the Magic Kingdom attraction. So they didn't have that reference point from Disney themselves. Maybe, I mean, I'm sure they had assistants or reference sheets from Disney, but like, you know, there wasn't that widely available, and this is pre-YouTube, etc. Like, they were kind of going blind, I'm sure, on this, and I don't think there was any 3D Mickey Adventures. There, maybe there was for like PlayStation or N64. You know, like Rare obviously did the kart racer, but that was pretty limited and mostly from behind, etc. But like, I don't know. I'm just thinking like freestanding, free roaming camera up in Mickey's face.
Yeah, totally.
This is pretty early for that, so I give him a little forgiveness for that. As far as there's some effects, like there's some reflections on like the floors and some glass and stuff that work okay. There's like video, like a movie clip, I guess, of through the mirror or whatever.
Correct, and in fact, there's more than just that one.
Okay.
If you keep turning on the TV, it plays a bunch of different old Mickey Mouse clips, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is
a fun little
cool.
Easter egg.
Something that obviously was already being done on the PlayStation because of it disc storage, but you know, for Nintendo games that was a relatively new thing. So there's that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. The lighting is decent because there's a few times where like lights are on or off, or there's a candle or flashlight. Nothing like jaw dropping. It's not like Resident Evil, which is another Capcom game for the GameCube. But you know, I thought it worked.
What did you think about the cursor icons and stuff?
It was fine being a Mickey glove when it clicks. I thought the finger animation was a little over the top.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to complain about, but it was like what I feel like could have been like a 2 or 3 frame animation was like a 6 or 10 frame animation, and it just kind of curved too much. It's just a real nitpick right there, but it just, I don't know. What did you think of them?
I thought they were okay. The only issue I didn't like was I feel like there should have been another distinctive icon. There's like the Mickey hand that you click to interact with things, as well as move around areas. And so sometimes I was trying to interact with something, but instead it moved me to another part of the room. Actually, that happened all the time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It just wasn't. And maybe they weren't trying to give away secrets by like if you hover over something that it like changes the icon. But it's just sometimes I couldn't get it to do what I wanted to do, and he was just moving all over the place. But other than that, the other icons for it I thought worked fine. The heads-up display was not really that intrusive, at least until you can collect more stars, and then they like take up more of the screen.
The screen is just like seizing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, there's the icons for like when you get up close to an object, it becomes like a magnifying glass, and then there's like the door icons, and like it's kind of weird that you had to like, click the door twice sometimes. It's unlock or whatever, and then I guess since we are in visuals, like some of the animations just took way too long to play out. Like that very opening sequence where you're in the first room, you've got 2 doors to your left and right, and it's like you click one, he goes through, comes out the other side, you click the other one, and then it's like like a 2 or 3 minute cutscene, I guess, but it just was like, man, that was played out.
Yeah.
And a lot of this game, and we'll get more into this in the gameplay, but a lot of this game is trial and error where you have to repeat sequences and sort of figure out the right order of events to do things, or maybe not the order, but like whether or not to do an action. And like if you mess it up, you have to go through all of that again, and it takes a while sometimes.
Yeah.
One for me that stood out was like the train. And I didn't play a whole lot, but like the train sequence is kind of the first one I did, and it was like I got through this and I collected the stars and I went through this animation, and then I clicked the suitcase and it chased me and I didn't have enough stars. And I had to go through all of that again just to realize that I shouldn't have clicked the suitcase. And it was like, it just felt like a lot of wasted time redoing something I'd already done. So,
yeah, and that's the thing. This has nothing to do with visuals. That's just so weird about this game. And we'll just jump ahead to it real quick.
Fine.
But basically, there's these tricks that you can do, and you play tricks on Mickey, which is really
messed up.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels wrong because it's like at times you're like pushing Mickey into a closet or tripping him. Yeah, and so it's like it's really weird. And so like the suitcase, for instance, you trick him into opening the suitcase, and then it's a monster and it has teeth, and so it starts to chase him. But then so then you're like, all right, we set Mickey up, and now it's funny because Mickey's being chased around, and ha ha ha. But then you can trip him, and so then you trip him, which is a trick, and then the suitcase jumps over him and misses him because he trips, and then therefore the suitcase, I don't know, dies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then it all works out, and so it's always this weird like. There's a misfortune of Mickey, but at the end, so it's like sometimes you're against him, but you're for him. There's one part
controlling the antagonist. This is like this little ghost thing. Yeah, it's weird.
Right, and that's the other thing. You don't know. Are you Mickey, or are you controlling him, or are you like doing things to help guide him?
Technically both. Yeah,
I guess. So it's kind of confusing, and I don't know. It's just this huge game of like, let's just put Mickey through hell.
Yeah,
and it'll be funny. I don't know. There's just a couple parts where it's like, wow, this is kind of morbid. Like at one point, he like sticks his head in a hole in the wall, and you can drop it like a 2x4 down on his head, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like that could kill somebody.
Yeah.
And then there's a sequence where you go up in a clock tower, and if you like do this trick, he'll like fall into the gears, and you literally watch him get crushed as he goes from gear to gear to the top of the clock tower. And I'm just watching like, what is this? Like this feels like I'm doing it wrong, but this is what the game wants me to do. Like it wants Mickey to be inflicted in pain. So it's just really weird.
And it's like then there's sort of the opposite side of that, like with the rubber duck, where it's like you're trying to help him escape the rubber duck, and it's not so much tricks as it is like climb up here and avoid this and get in the plane and all that. It's very odd. Like it's like, am I helping Mickey? Am I hurting Mickey? Am I guiding him? Am I helping the ghost, the antagonist? Like,
right.
It's all over the place in that regard. And yeah, this stemmed from the visuals and the long animations, but like, we'll maybe go a little more into that when we get back to gameplay. But from there, let's get into the audio.
Okay. You want me to go?
Yeah, why don't you start?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of thoughts. Music's just okay, nothing super special. I never found it annoying or like overly repetitive, but I don't think there's a ton of variety to it. But it never really got on my nerves, and it was always just kind of in the background for me. Never its strong point, but never like a detriment to it. I guess the only quality thing in this is the Mickey dialogue, and it's not super heavy. He's not super chatty, which is nice because sometimes in point and click games your main character can be like super chatty. You click on anything and it's like buh, buh, buh.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and so and I don't know. Mickey's never been like I don't know. I don't like him to be overly chatty. And so for the most part, he kind of keeps to himself and has thoughts every now and then. But everything they, he says is fine, and nothing really overly stuck out to me that was like super weird. So I like that. I liked the voice acting in it. I wish there was more. That's pretty much the only thoughts I had.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with the music thing. It's there. It's not intrusive, but it's not great. As far as the voice clips, I couldn't tell how many were new versus recycled. I definitely recognized his was the exact same one from one of the Super Nintendo ones we played.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I think
was
that's Mickey Mania.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I recognized that one right away. And that's
Nice.
pretty common for almost every Disney game that has voice samples of Mickey. They just have a huge library of his expressions and will use them.
Yeah.
And they'll
He
record
does-
new stuff sometimes, but
Yeah.
you know.
Sorry. I was just gonna say
Go
he
ahead.
says hot dog a lot in this game. Hot
Nice.
dog. It's like, all right, you've already said that.
Yeah.
Maybe something different.
But
So that was probably pre-recorded.
so anyway, I mean, yeah, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't overly used. It wasn't intrusive per se, but like there's a little bit of redundancy here and there. But yeah, other than that, sound effects were classic Disney sound effects in general that I recall. You know, the old sound effect machines. If anyone grew up in the Disney Channel early 2000s when they kind of showed some behind the scenes stuff when they were making the House of Mouse cartoons.
Oh yeah.
They had, you know, like just the old sound effects machines from the 30s, you know, that they had used.
Right.
Pretty cool. It sounds like they used clips from that or similar stuff to that. Which was cool. The clicks and the interactions never really felt overly annoying or anything. You know, I think if I'd had my wife watching, I don't know that she would have gone insane as far as the waifometer.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
we've talked about this in the past, some of the sound effects have just been too awful for them to stay in the room. So
Yep.
yeah, that's pretty much it, I think, for audio.
Cool.
Yeah. So jumping back into gameplay a little bit, just to kind of top off our discussion, we kind of covered the bulk of it, honestly, but it does kind of throw you in to the beginning of the game with like that first room I said. You kind of see that you have a cursor, you've got a little menu in the bottom that can save and a little menu that has items, but you don't have any items, so you kind of understand, the gist of what's to come, I think. It lets you interact, but keeps you contained.
Right.
Eventually you go through into the next room, and that's where it kind of sets up the story. This little ghost guy kind of chases you around in the opening cutscene through the looking glass type thing. Mickey follows him or goes in, and then the looking glass basically breaks, and I guess recovering all the glass pieces is the premise of the game, and that's how he gets back home.
Yep.
I'm just guessing this based on what I saw. I didn't have a manual or a story, so the game does not do a super duper great job of explaining stuff. It does adequate job setting stuff up with a cutscene, but beyond that, kind of more implied.
Right.
And then from that point on, it's like you explore rooms like Luigi's Mansion. You click stuff. One thing I found annoying, and I'm sure this was on purpose, but like the first hallway I went into that was to the left of the broken mirror room, when you start in the hallway, the camera's looking one way, and if you walk down the hallway, it looks the opposite way, and you can see one of the shards of glass under the rug.
Yeah.
But you can't click it, and you can't like go back to it. It was really frustrating and not really well explained. And I'm sure there's something later on where the rug gets pulled or something. But like,
Yeah,
that was
actually,
annoying.
it's really easy, Jeff.
Yeah.
All you have to do is open the farthest door, and a ghost pops out, and then you trick Mickey, and he runs away from the ghost, pulling the carpet along with him as he tries to run away really fast.
Classic. Killed.
And then he falls over on his face, and then when he looks up, there's the piece.
Good thing he didn't fall onto the piece. That could have been gruesome.
That could have been very bad.
Well, yeah, there you go. So it's like, is that good design? Is that bad design? It's like it's showing you that it's there, but you don't know how to get it. Maybe that's good design, but no. In a point
agree.
and click
I
adventure
definitely
where it's
clicked
like
it.
you can click everything and you can't click that's really frustrating.
Right.
So
But you have to figure out, what am I supposed to do so that I can get it?
yeah, and in the next room, like right next to that hallway, there's like a spider web with a key in it. No obvious way to get it. I'm sure that certain sequence of events.
Just click on the bed, and then he jumps on the bed.
But I jumped on the bed like 4 times and nothing.
And then
happened.
did you do a trick so that his face goes into
No, that's what I
Yeah,
forgot
see, that's
to
the thing.
do.
Sometimes there's prompts to do tricks and you miss them.
Yeah, because you have
Which-
to have your mouse over Mickey or your cursor.
Right, and so some cutscenes, you can see in my
Yeah.
gameplay, I'm just like my cursor is just like circling the whole cutscene. Like, is there something I can click
That's a good
on?
idea.
And so you can't really ever rest. There's no resting in this game.
Yeah. The original QuickTime events.
That's right.
It's funny because this reminds me, in that regard, like you just said, a little bit of Resident Evil 4, where they added those interactive cutscenes where it's like you're watching a cutscene, but all of a sudden a boulder comes and you need to jump out of the way or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
keeps you on your toes, I suppose. But the other half of those tricks is that you have to just find little star shards laying around, and you don't really know how many you're going to need to complete a full trick sequence, quote unquote,
Correct.
where it's like you start, and then it's like, I don't know, sometimes there's not enough initially, and like you said, you have to get more, and like you only have 2 slots, but you need 3 at later point, and there suddenly is 3 slots, but there wasn't anything to pick up. It's just not explained well. It's
there's
not
definitely
bad,
a huge lack of explanation in this game, for sure.
And I appreciate that for a kid's game, it's not dialogue or text box heavy, because that would be pointless.
Right.
But for a kid's game, it also it's not intuitive enough, I think, for a young kid. And that's maybe another design problem with the game, is it's like, it is definitely meant for kids. It's definitely geared that way, but it also isn't set up well enough. And I didn't play the kids mode, so maybe the kids mode kind of handicaps all that. But anyway, if you want to go into any more gameplay details, or if you want to explain the kids in normal mode, we can go ahead and jump forward.
Yeah, so just a couple other things. So the stars at the top left of the corner represent how many trick points you have. Like Jeff said, certain tricks cost so many, and so as you explore, you'll find these blue star holders, which allow you to collect more stars.
Oh, that's what those are. I thought those were just open doors, like Mario 64. Okay.
No, yeah, and so it allows you to carry way more. So by the end of it, you can have a lot of stars on you. Which at first it's really nice and kind of addicting to find those. Yeah. But then toward the end, I just wanted to find the last mirror pieces. But instead, I kept finding star holders. I was like, I don't need more stars. I have like 2 rows full.
Okay.
So that was a little frustrating. But you can also collect keys in this game, which obviously unlock doors. There was one locked door actually in this game that I could not find a key for. And then eventually I like came out the other end of the locked door. And so there's a little bit of like non-linearness to this game to a point, where eventually it was like, oh, I guess I didn't need that key, because I eventually found like another way to get to that room without a key. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Other things that you can collect are items, which look grayed out, which is really weird. But you collect them, and they're basically just additional items that you can find. You have to find them all to get 100% at the end of the game. And then once you beat the game and you go back to Mickey's room, you can look at all your items that you found. There's like pictures of Daisy. There's a Donald Duck plush.
Oh, yeah,
it's a bunch of just kind of lame stuff, really.
Yeah.
Nothing super cool.
Are any of them really usable? Like,
no.
I collected a flashlight, and I was like,
okay,
this must be useful.
Those are.
Okay.
Those are different.
But those are different. So there's collectibles and there's usable items.
Correct. And so, yeah. No, you're good. And so there's also items, yes. There's like a flashlight, there's a magnifying glass, a marble, different things like that you find. And the weird thing about it was I found a lot of them up front, and I was like, what do I do with these? Yeah. And then it wasn't later until the game that I would come across something. I'm like, finally, I can use this random flower that I found. And so I felt like they didn't necessarily space them out super well, because I had a bunch of stuff and I kept trying to use them and they weren't working. And I was like, what are these for? Yeah. So I don't know. It was a little interesting. But most point-and-click adventure games have items like that where you just keep clicking things until something works.
Yep.
So you also have that. There's also a number of mini games in this, most of which are not very good. I think I played the majority of them. I think the only one I maybe didn't play was the snowboarding one, which is really easy to get to. You just look in the refrigerator and then do a trick. But I didn't realize while he was looking in there that I could do a trick, and so I missed it.
Okay.
But there's like a dancing rhythm game. There's a guitar rhythm game. There's like a flying one where you fly around on a plane. That was probably the best one. They're all really easy, and they really don't reward you with anything other than, depending on how well you do, they fill your stars back up. And so that's really the only service they provide.
Okay.
And a break up from the monotonous gameplay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Other than that, I think that's about it. Like I mentioned, that you can't 100% this game, so there's a lot of things you have to collect all the items. You got to get all of the mirror pieces, which is something you don't even have to collect all 12 pieces to beat the game. I think you only need like 9 or 10 or something, and then you can actually finish early.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So you get to decide. There's like a cutscene every time you enter after that point into that mirror room.
Mm-hmm.
You decide, like, do I want to go back or do I want to finish? And I didn't realize that I had an option there when I was first seeing that play out. And so I kept like, all right, I guess I got to find more pieces. But then I started reading up on it and I realized, oh, if I want to, I'm far enough now that I can just be done. So I thought that was interesting. It kind of lets you decide when you want to be finished after you hit a certain point. So
interesting, yeah.
Controls in this game are super basic.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the L and R buttons do nothing other than like turn the heads-up display off. The Y and X do nothing. The A does everything. D-pad and C-stick do nothing. And so it's a very, very simple game, which is good for kids. So it doesn't take too much, which I guess is nice.
Okay.
Speaking of kids, there are 2 modes to this difficulty. You either play in kids mode or normal mode. And so, as we mentioned, this game already really kind of is for kids, but I will say in the normal mode, there were times that I did get stuck. Granted, I was kind of speeding through things, and if I was slowed down, it would be a little more easier, I guess. But I don't know. I have the manual for this since I had a physical copy, and I don't know. I thought it was interesting about the kids mode, so I'm just going to read a little bit of it real quick because I thought it was kind of a cool feature that they spent some time on. Kids mode is a simplified version of the normal mode, making it possible for even young children to play the game. It's different from normal mode in these ways. If the controller is not used for a set period of time, Mickey starts exploring by himself. When a button is pressed, the game starts waiting for the controller to be used again. When the magic bag appears, clicking makes the game proceed automatically.
Nice.
You don't need any trick points to use tricks, which is that's nice.
How I should have played.
Yeah, there are fewer rooms in the mansion. Only the main events will be shown.
Oh,
that's really nice.
Yeah.
Game progress cannot be saved. The game finishes 1 hour after starting. That's what it says.
Weird.
Yeah. Another cool feature, by connecting the controller to the port 2, an additional controller, you can use a parent pointer. You can use this guide to player 1 to guide the player 1 pointer. You can also play the game with your child and enjoy it together. Catch the player 1 pointer by pressing and holding the A button. You can then guide it for your child.
Oh dear.
Nice. The player 2 pointer can be used to catch. It's repeating. But yeah, you'd be like, oh, look over there and grab their pointer and drag it over. Only player 1 can select Mickey's movements, such as looking closer, though. And then the one other feature that I guess is actually kind of well known, or they talk about a lot, is called hide and seek with hats. When you get through the whole game, you'll find a hide and seek with hats game. 5 hats are hidden in unusual boxes around the rooms inside the mirror. Find each box and pick up the hat inside. Like the souvenir items, you can take hats back to Mickey's room. Then you can play hide the hats, where basically rather than your child hiding the hats, it's much more fun if someone else hides the hats so that your child can find them, basically. And so it's just a simple game of hide and seek, which I think is more or less what I assume led to the pseudo sequel to this game.
I was just about to say that. Like, wow, what an interesting segue.
Yeah. I know nothing about the sequel.
I don't either. I don't even know if it's the same controls or whatever, but yeah. Well,
all I know is I read a quote, I think it was from IGN, about the sequel, and I think they said it was like even worse than the first one. And yeah, no, here it is. What did they say? They said just as bad and boring as Disney's Magical Mirror starring Mickey
I read
Mouse.
that. Yep.
So not good.
It's too bad.
Other than that, I think that's pretty much everything as far as gameplay goes. I think we covered it all.
The one question I had, and I just thought of it, sometimes in the room you can click like picture frames, and like in the bedroom you click the moon and it flips over and becomes a sun.
Right.
Do those do anything, or are they just interactive for interactive sake? Because there's a few different picture frames that do weird stuff.
That's a great question. Those, I'm not going to be able to pull it up quick enough. I should have had it up.
Oh,
those kinds of things, no, you're good. Do play into the 100%.
Okay.
That you need. And I forget what they called them, but I think even like I took a picture of my final results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it plays into it. So, or maybe I'm thinking of tricks.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have 89% of the tricks done,
Nice.
11 out of the 12 mirrors, but only 51% of the bonus items. So, so maybe it doesn't. I think they might just be there for aesthetic, but maybe I read that wrong. Maybe I'm confusing that with tricks.
Okay.
But
it was
that's
sort
a
of
good question.
just another annoying thing where it's like it's a clickable interactive item, but it has no immediate like effect on anything, and it's like, is this just for the sake of interactivity? Do I need to come back to this later? Like, it's just not telegraphed well from a design perspective. It's like either every room should have every item interactive and just, because like I had point and click adventure games on the PC as a kid where it was like you could click everything on the screen and it would always just have like a cute little animation, but it'd be quick and you can tell it didn't drive the story forward. And then a main object would trigger an action or a advancement. So I don't know. It was odd because I only found a couple of them in my playthrough, but just like, oh, well, this picture frame shrank, so does that mean I'm gonna shrink? And eventually I shrank like 2 rooms later, and then like the night and day one, there was a light switch in that room. So like, I don't know, maybe it was a hint for just things to come. I have no idea, but it was odd. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at here. It says you can click on pictures to see them react differently.
Oh, okay.
Try clicking on other things with the gray hand. Some stuff will react. That's pretty much it.
That's what I was thinking. Okay,
but
see, that's annoying too. It's like, well, I'm not going to click on stuff if it's grayed out. But.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I know when I was a kid, like even like the like interactive, like what's the like educational PC games, there would be like stuff in the room. If you clicked on it, it would make like a fart sound or something.
Exactly. Yep.
And so like
the
right,
critters.
and so I think it's just kind of like that, where it's just fun little things for kids to click on and do things with. But I'm with you. I was like, maybe I open this window, there'll be something in there, like and just have it. Most of the time, it wasn't anything.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yep. Do you want to go ahead and read the story as it
Yeah,
exists?
it's real short.
Okay.
Here in the manual. One night, a strange sound awakens Mickey. He sees a ghost staring at him from inside the mirror. But wait, what's this? Mickey is actually still fast asleep. Ah, this is a dream. Mickey realizes he is dreaming. As the ghost beckons him into the mirror, Mickey hesitates, but then decides to go in. This is where Mickey's strange dream world adventure begins.
Man, they reused Through the Looking Glass a lot in Mickey video games.
A lot.
Good Lord. This is like the exact setup of Epic Mickey.
Yeah, right?
Jeez. Well,
I guess it works.
I was going to say it works because it gives you unlimited rules because it's a dreamland. So, which, I mean, it's Mickey anyway, but yeah, I guess that's just, I get it. I get the appeal of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a story. What about all the other Fab 5 Disney characters? Are they in the story?
No. In fact, it's funny because there's like 2 pages here on the right after story that says game characters. Oh. And it's literally Mickey Mouse and the Ghost. Oh, no. That they are the only characters in this entire game. Does the Ghost have a
name?
No, he's called the Ghost.
Jeez. So lazy.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I never figured out the mystery, but even in this manual, it says, what could the ghost be up to? And then when you try to leave the game, I think before 100%, like the ghost gets really sad that you're leaving. And he like gets all like sad. And then when you decide to stay, he like tricks you and knocks you over and runs away. And so I don't really know. And I tried to look up like 100% ending on YouTube. I couldn't find anything. Yeah. I don't even know if there's an additional cutscene for 100%ing it. Mm-hmm. But Mickey literally leaves. And when I beat it, he's like, sorry, pal, gotta go. He leaves, goes back to sleep. He wakes up the next morning. He's like, was that a dream or was that real? I'm hungry. And then he goes to eat. And then the credits roll. And so, anyway, just overall, like a kind of a disappointing storyline. But back to the thing is like, there's just like no characters, no dialogue. There's I don't know. And I get that, with kids, maybe it's you want to steer away from that stuff. But at one point, there's a picture on the wall of a guy. I don't know. It's just like some like medieval looking dude that I don't know. And then I like walked up to him like, who's that guy? And I clicked on it. Nothing happened. I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess that could have been cool. Like you click on it and he talks to you, or I don't know. It was just lacking any kind of dialogue, character. It was just like the only character development and or interaction is just between Mickey and this ghost, which most of the time is just it scaring Mickey or Mickey like abusing, trying to fight him. Yeah. And so it was just kind of disappointing on that end. Like just how little. I mean, you look at the credits and it's like there's 2 voice credits. The guy who did the ghost and the guy who does Mickey, and that's like it. And so I don't know. It kind of stood out to me as something that was just like, that's kind of weird. I feel like, and maybe it made it easier that way, and they're keeping it, keeping it
dev time.
Right, maybe keeping dev time low. I don't know, but I don't know. I just found that kind of disappointing. The ending felt really weird. It felt like we disappointed the ghost, but I don't know why. And maybe if I 100%ed it, it would give me, I don't know, maybe he beckons you in because you're supposed to help him with something, but I don't know what that is, because literally the whole point of the game is just to get out of there. And so, I don't know. So that was kind of weird.
Sorry, I was gonna say it's also surprising they went with an original ghost and not like the lonesome ghost, who did play tricks on Mickey just like this, like physically abusive tricks on Mickey. At least that would have fit with the lore. I don't know.
Totally. And so that even leads me to kind of my final point with a lot of this game. It's just kind of a weird setting that never really finds its niche. Like at the beginning, it just kind of is like a mirror world of like Mickey's house kind of. Yeah. And it's like bright and happy and like it's his TV and stuff. But then all of a sudden you go into another room and it's like a dark, scary Luigi's Mansion room with a candle. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, so there's kind of like, and the ghost totally sounds and looks and feels like he's from Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, he does.
And so it's like, okay, so maybe they're going for like a Luigi's Mansion thing, but then they like never stick to that theme, which I feel like it would have been really cool if they had done that. But then again, it's spooky for kids, so it's like maybe they didn't want to be too spooky,
right? And
so I felt like they never really could figure out what they were going for as far as like the setting and the tone of the game. And then even later on, at one point you go outside and you're on this like clock tower and you can see like a village below. And then you like go across to this bell and it is like real like big scope, kind of epic. And I'm like, oh, this is really neat. It kind of felt like a little medieval or something. And then you go down into like a dungeon and there's like a cellar with like barrels and stuff, and it's like, okay, so this kind of feels more like some of the other Mickey games where you go to these like magical worlds. But then all of a sudden you go back and you're like in a library, which kind of felt Luigi's Mansion. I don't know. It was just all over the place, and that's why like we can't even go level by level in this game because there really isn't levels to it, just rooms. And so I don't know. I kept waiting for it to get more epic or a little more like intense, and it kind of did, but then it just, I don't know, I never felt like I knew what they were going for. Nothing was really overly like phantasmic or like dreamlike. It was all pretty kind of basic. I don't know, it was just weird. So
fair enough. And I think that covers the levels pretty well for that sake. Like,
I kind of mentioned
describing what some of them are and where. I don't know if there's any other ones that stood out or didn't stand out, but I think that kind of covers them.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we've pretty much wrapped up where we stand on this. We can go into our final thoughts, unless you've got anything else before that.
Nah, we can do final thoughts.
Okay. Well, let's do some final thoughts. I'll go ahead and start. This game should have been an awesome kids game. And I can enjoy and appreciate a game that's geared for kids, but still has intelligent design and things that it's like, well, this would be fun for kids, but not overly frustrating. And I feel like this one just sort of misfires. It's, I think in their quest to kind of, I don't even know the right word, but like kind of entertain a kid by the tricks. They kind of just went overboard with making them a little too long and drawn out and boring. Like even just the animation to unlock the door takes forever when you do the keys. And it's just like, let me get on with it. Let me play. Let me explore. Like, it's just a waste of time. And there's just a lot of that with the different things. So the other, the trial and error aspect of should you use a trick? Should you not use a trick? Like, yeah, I can get where that can sort of be interesting, but like, again, it's not always obvious, and it's like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it helps Mickey, sometimes it abuses Mickey, and it's just like, I don't know, it felt weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just didn't love this game. I never really loved it, even when I'd first tried it, and again, when I kind of gave it a more fair shake and gave it a more critical look this time, just because I have a better understanding and appreciation for what I feel is good game design, and this just didn't have much of it. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. If you're interested in Mickey, watch a YouTube video of it or something, the history of it. But other than that, probably not worth your time to play.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
All right. I got some thoughts here. So one of the big things I think this game was trying to do was kind of create a cinematic adventure, something where little playtime, mostly just watching cutscenes and, things play out, which I guess is okay. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe kids enjoy it because they, play a little bit, watch a lot, play a little bit, watch some more. But I don't know. When you're sitting there and you just want to play a game, I think it just makes games like feel drawn out when there's so much non-interactive time, and so I think it hurts on that. Another big thing is like literally every door you go through, the screen goes black, and then it has to load in a new area. Yeah. And so when you're trying to backtrack, it takes forever because some rooms you got to click 2 or 3 times and wait for Mickey to walk across the room before you can even get out the door. And so like you said, even with the keys, you have to like click on the door, and then you have to click that you want to use a key again, and then Mickey like pulls a key out and reveals it in his hand. Then it shows it going in the door. Then the door opens, and then he walks through the door. And so like all of that takes time, and it's just like, and so after a while, it gets a little frustrating. Yep. They do introduce like these warp doors that take you back to the main area after you get really far along, so you don't have to do as much backtracking, but then you can't go back into that warp door to get back to certain areas. You have to then take the long way. Yeah. Right. I don't know. At one point, I was actually having a good time with it. I was like collecting a lot of stuff. I was having fun. I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm kind of getting into this. There was a couple times where I was like, ooh, I think I might be stuck. But then I would like figure one thing out, and it would open up a new area. And so I was doing really well. But toward the end, I think I started to get a little more fatigued. I was like, all right, like I'm tired of the load times. It's taking forever. And I think I was about ready to quit. Honestly, if I had known that it only took like 3 or 4 hours to beat, I probably wouldn't have seen it through. But I knew it was a short game, so I was like, I'll just stick with it. We'll figure it out. I did eventually just pull up a walkthrough because there was one trick that I needed to do in the clock tower that I couldn't figure out because I wasn't paying attention during one of the cutscenes, and I missed a trick opportunity, which then I wasn't able to get to the next part. And so did have to look one thing up. I was trying really hard not to use walkthroughs because I always use them on point and click adventures, and so I was trying not to. So if you're not paying attention or whatever, you can miss stuff, and it can be difficult to figure out what's next. So I guess it was at least difficult enough that I had to use I don't know. It wasn't really because of difficulty, but maybe just because there wasn't clear like direction as to whether or not you need to use a trick or something. So, just slow pacing, a little bit of a drag. The plot was really kind of mundane, and I felt like exploring the place didn't really open up any other, like, why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? It was just kind of like survive, get out of here. And so, a little anticlimactic in that way. The mini games were okay, but weren't even like good enough quality to really break up the monotony. So I'm with Jeff. I don't know if I would I don't know. I wouldn't tell people to go buy this. I wouldn't recommend it. maybe if you're a huge Mickey fan. But I don't know. I just feel like there's way better ways to spend your time playing Mickey games than this one. Go play any of the other Capcom games that are Mickey before this, and you'll have a much better time. So
that's it. Alrighty, well, with that, I think we'll wrap here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, as always. And if you haven't already, give us a follow over on Twitter at mouse_bytes, bytes with a Y. Also, you can go to thenintendovillage.com, and from there you can find links to all of our episodes, as well as other great shows, reviews, and other content. Our episodes are also on the Nintendo Village YouTube channel, and if you'd like to see gameplay along with each episode, you can check those out there, unless you're doing that right now. Thanks again, and join us for our next episode. Hopefully we'll have that up before too long. And with that, have a great day, everyone. And if you do see Mickey Mouse, tell him to stop falling asleep in rooms with mirrors.
See ya.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and visit thenintendovillage.com. your home for everything Nintendo.